Talk about the strange way a song will come to you. Here's a doozy. I'm still in this tuning of D, G, D, by the way. And let's get away from the Dulcimer for just a minute. I'll tell you, I was once in a movie. Yes, I was. And as is customary sometimes in the movie business, when you finish doing a movie, you have what you call a wrap party. And there was a wrap party, and I went to the wrap party. And I'm not really a party kind of guy a lot of the times, and definitely this was not one of those times. It was sort of in a bar, and there was food everywhere, and there was booze was flowing, and everybody was sitting around with their and I was just sort of bored with the whole scene. But you know, my friends had been in the film, and my friends were in the room, and it was nice to say, hey, good job, and all that stuff. But basically, it turned into this, and I was just kind of tuning it out, and I looked on the other side of the room, and there was a young, I looked like he was not even a teenager yet, a young boy in a wheelchair. And I thought, oh, a kid. Well, I'd go over and talk to him, maybe with something, get something going here. I got about halfway across the room, and I kind of focused in on him, and I realized that he had a disability that was, I didn't know what to call the disability, but he was definitely having movements with his hands that were kind of flinging around a little bit, and his head was shaking a little bit, and he had a little bit of drool coming down his chin like that, and I thought, oh, I don't know how I would approach somebody. So, and I was about to go to the right here and sit with the people that were doing it. It felt more comfortable than talking to the kid that was doing this, and I caught myself having this judgment. I said, Rick, that's a kid over there. Go talk, see what he's up to. So I did. I walked over to this young man and I said, hi, I'm Rick. Who are you? Simon. Simon. Wow, how you doing, Simon? I'm sorry, but I'm finding this party is a little bit boring. Do you think so? Yeah. I said, well, what should we do? And Simon said, chocolate. Now, this party was on a place called Granville Island. And Granville Island has all kinds of little very fancy grocery places and fancy market that sells you all kinds of fancy buns or pasta or this and that and the other. But they also sell really good chocolate. They have a really good chocolate shop, and I knew where it was. And so I took that wheelchair and we just went plowing through the crowd, and oh, look at me. And out we went onto the sidewalk, and we went around the corner, and we went into the marketplace, and we went to my favorite chocolate place. And we bought a bunch of chocolate. We bought 3 pieces each because it's expensive. So I got the pieces of chocolate, and then we went back out on the outside area, and I sat down on a bench next to Simon, who's there, and I gave him a piece of chocolate, and he got the chocolate, and then he was getting it to his mouth, but he got it to the side of his mouth, and he kind of pulled it into his mouth, and he ate that chocolate. It tasted so good. And so I popped the one in my mouth like that. And then, you know how when you eat a piece of chocolate and you swallowed it and you're thinking, ooh, I'd like to have another piece of chocolate. But where's the chocolate? Well, with Simon, see, he'd gotten a little bit on his face over here like this, and he pulled it over into his mouth. And so when he wanted to have some more chocolate, he had it right there. He could just... Well, I learned a very important lesson about chocolate just then. If you smear a little bit on your face before you put it in your mouth, when you want that little extra piece of chocolate, well, it's hanging out right there, go get it. That's really a true story. And as I was walking home after the party, and I'd had chocolate with Simon, and we'd been messing around, I spent the whole rest of the party with Simon. But basically what was happening is I'd ask Simon what we should do, and he'd say chocolate, or let's get something to drink, or whatever we were going to do. So whatever Simon said, we did it. And I realized as I was walking home that I was actually playing a real live game of Simon Sez. When Simon says have chocolate, we had chocolate. When Simon, let's get a soda, we had a soda. And that inspired me to play a game of Simon Sez, but do it kind of musically. And I made up a song called Simon Sez, based on my moment with this little boy named Simon. And yeah, in this tuning, that's how songs come to me. Simon says to look up, Simon says to look down, Simon says put the best smile on that you got in town. Simon says point your finger, Simon says scratch your head. Simon says now, aren't you glad you did what Simon said? That's what Simon told me. Now I'm telling you, that's what Simon told me to do. Yeah, that's what Simon said.